Right. Hi, everyone. Welcome back. Happy Wednesday. This is our last day of talking about the United Nations activity. Today, you're going to do three things. Number one, watch this lesson overview video, which way to go, you're already doing that. Number two, you're going to do a quick discussion post called the Top 10 List. You'll find that discussion post below this agenda on Schoology. And then finally, you guys are going to be finishing part 4 of the UN activity. Specifically, you're going to be using the PDF posted in today's folder titled UN Image Sort to complete the activity. At the end of class today, you should be able to submit the completed entire United Nations activity for me to check. There's no homework. Our learning objective for today is that you can identify the purpose of the United Nations in a modern world. And that's a big to-do that we're going to keep unpacking throughout the course of this week and next week as we start our assessment. So, for today, step 1, you're going to post to a discussion. Here's your task. I want you to go back to Universal Declaration of Human Rights, and I want you to highlight which of the 10 you believe to be most valuable. Okay? In a discussion post on Schoology, I want you to answer 2 questions. Number 1, why did you make the selections you did? So in other words, how did you decide which 10 were most essential? And then number 2, how did you decide which rights not to include? So how did you make the decision to cut certain of them out? We're going to be talking about this document throughout the course of our upcoming assessment. And so I wanted to get your thoughts now on which ones you think are most essential and why. Once you're done with that discussion post, and I'd give it about 5 to 10 minutes to really complete that discussion post, you're going to move on to the last section of the UN activity, which is part 4. So, this section is why do we actually need the United Nations? For this section, you're going to look at a bunch of different images of the work of the United Nations around the world. And what I want you to do is identify which of the goals of the UN, which are listed right here, they're also in our activity that we listed up above for part 2. And I want you to identify which of these goals of the UN you believe the picture most represents. So let's do one together. This is image number 1. Now, the image itself, you can sort of read and analyze however you would like to. Okay, but it looks like this group of people is getting provided some sort of net, potentially a bug net in their community to prevent potentially even as a viewer, as I'm sitting here looking at it, potentially maybe preventing maybe the spread of things like malaria and other sort of mosquito-borne diseases or bug-borne diseases or viruses that can be spread. So I am looking at my list of the goals of the United Nations, and I decide that this second goal, goal number 2, is the one that most applies to this picture, and so I'll put the number 1 next to that over here. Now, when I come back to class tomorrow, we're going to discuss each of these, and I'm going to give a whole lot more context to them as well. But I want you to just look at the pictures as they are for today and do your best to identify which of the 5 goals of the UN is most applicable here. All right, again, if you have any questions, feel free to email me, and I hopefully look forward to seeing you guys tomorrow.